in this segment, I want to go over specifically how we can use shutter to freeze fast action. Now, remember, shutter deals with how long light comes into the camera. The faster the shutter opens and closes, the less time objects in motion have to blur across the screen, and that's what we're looking for. All right, you can use shutter in both shutter priority and in manual modes. But remember, if you're using manual mode, you're actually going to have to adjust your other settings, which are aperture and ISO, in order to balance the light to get the right exposure. All right, now in shutter priority mode, hopefully the camera will be taking care of that for you. So what I'd like to do today is shoot these beautiful waves behind me and try to freeze them so that there's no movement. Okay, in order to do that, remember, I'm going to have a shutter speed that's faster than the motion of the waves. Now you might ask, well, what shutter speed do I need to set it on in order to do that? Well, we don't know unless we experiment. So let's start out by using 1/60th of a second. That's a good base speed, and we'll take a shot. If the image is still blurry, we still have motion blur, we'll move the speed faster. And then again, we'll move it faster until we get to that point where the waves are sharp and clear and there's no more movement. All right, let's go check it out. So what I'm doing now is I'm changing my shutter speed to 1/60th of a second, which is 60 through your viewfinder right there, and I'm going to take some shots. Okay, you'll notice that at a 60th of a second, we've got motion blur in the waves, so we're going to have to make the shutter speed faster than it is now in order to try to freeze that action. So now I'm changing my shutter speed from 1/60th to 1/500th of a second, a much faster speed. And I also am going to have to open up my aperture from f32 to f10 in order to balance the meter. And then I'm going to take another shot. So at 1/500th of a second, we've actually done a pretty good job of freezing the motion of the waves. If we zoom in here, we can see that the water droplets are suspended in the air, and that's what we're looking for. So let's take one more shot. Okay, zooming in on the second shot, we can see that we've done a pretty good job again of freezing the action. So this is a safe threshold for this particular situation in freezing the motion. So for safety, let's go ahead and adjust the shutter to 1/1000th of a second, and we'll compensate with our aperture at f8 to balance the exposure and take another shot. At 1,000th of a second, if we zoom in here, we can see we've got a great crisp exposure of these little water droplets being flung off the crest of the wave, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So let's take one more shot just to see what we can get. In the second shot, we've captured this beautiful fantail of water being thrown up into the air. So we know we're working at a great exposure, 1/1000th of a second at f8 for this particular situation. So let's take a few more shots to wrap it up. So again, at 1/60th of a second, we can see some blurring in the waves, especially in the foreground area. One 1/500th of a second, we've done a great job of freezing the action, and one more. And 1/1000th of a second for safety, and we've done a great job again of freezing the action. This can be applied to any type of motion you're shooting. The particular shutter speed you use is going to be dependent on how fast the motion is occurring, but the same principles that we've learned here will apply everywhere. So let's wrap it up. Remember, if you're shooting with a fast shutter, you may not have enough light to get a good exposure. But don't worry, you'll figure it out with time. I hope you have great fun shooting all that fast action, and that's a wrap. Woo! There you go.
Got hit.
I got in the ocean.